Part 1, the wrong turn. The rain had been falling for hours, turning the forest road into a ribbon of mud. Daniel kept a tight grip on the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield as the wipers groaned in protest. GPS says we've got 30 minutes until the highway, Megan said, leaning over from the passenger seat. Her voice had that edge of forced optimism, the kind couples use when they're lost but don't want to admit it yet. Daniel sighed. If the GPS could talk, it'd be apologizing right now. This road's not even on the map. In the back seat, Luis and Amy, their college friends, were slumped against the windows, half asleep. The four had been on a week-long road trip, camping, hiking, exploring small towns, and now they were just trying to make it home. The rain intensified, and a fork in the road appeared without warning. A rotting wooden sign stood at the intersection, its letters barely visible. Left or right? Daniel asked. Left looks paved. Kinda, Megan said. Go right and we're in mud. Daniel took the left. 5 minutes later, the pavement ended anyway. The trees pressed closer, their bare branches clawing at the car as if trying to hold it back. The GPS froze, the little arrow spinning aimlessly. We'll find something, Megan muttered, more to herself than anyone else. They found something, all right. A village. Part 2. Welcome to Hollow's Edge. It emerged from the mist like a half-forgotten memory. A cluster of houses with steep, sloping roofs, built from dark wood and stone. A single street ran down the center, flanked by flickering lanterns. The rain had eased into a fine drizzle by the time they pulled into what looked like the village square. The buildings leaned toward each other as though conspiring, their windows like dark eyes watching the stranger's arrival. An old man appeared from a nearby doorway, wrapped in a long coat that seemed far too thin for the chill. Lost, are you? His voice was raspy, like dry leaves scraping across pavement. Daniel rolled down the window a crack. Yeah, we're trying to get back to the main road. GPS isn't working. The man smiled faintly, revealing uneven teeth. No surprise. Hollow's Edge has a way of swallowing signals. Best come in out of the rain. My sister runs the inn. She'll fix you up with a meal and a bed for the night. Amy, now fully awake, whispered. Feels like the start of a horror movie.
Luis grinned.
Hey, free room and board. With no cell service and no idea how to navigate back in the dark. They agreed. The inn was a large, timber-framed building at the far end of the street. The sign above the door swayed in the wind, the paint flaking away to reveal the carved letters. The hollow hearth. Inside, it was warm, almost too warm, and smelled of wood smoke and something rich, savory, and unfamiliar. A woman in her 60s greeted them with a smile. Travelers, you must be frozen. Seat. I've stew on the fire. Part 3. The stew. They sat at a long wooden table while the innkeeper ladled thick, steaming stew into bowls. Daniel took a cautious sip. The flavor was incredible, deep, meaty, and spiced with something he couldn't name. This is amazing, Megan said between spoonfuls. Family recipe, the innkeeper said, her eyes twinkling. Goes back generations. Nothing warms you better. Luis finished his bowl in record time. What is it? Beef. The woman paused, just for a heartbeat. Something like that. The fire popped in the hearth. Outside, the wind howled down the narrow street. They were given 2 rooms upstairs. The walls were thick, but not thick enough to block the occasional sound of movement in the hallway. At one point, Daniel thought he heard someone humming softly, just outside the door. Part 4. Whispers. The next morning, the village was shrouded in fog. While Megan and Amy explored the market stalls, Daniel wandered toward the edge of the village, where the houses thinned and the forest loomed. He noticed a small graveyard, its headstones cracked and leaning. An old woman was there, laying flowers. She looked up when she saw him. You shouldn't linger here, she said. The Hollow doesn't like outsiders. Daniel frowned. We're just passing through. The woman's eyes darted toward the village. She lowered her voice. If you value your skin, you'll be gone before the feast. What feast? But she only shook her head and walked away. Part 5. The feast approaches that night. The inn was busier than before. Villagers filled the common room, their voices low but urgent. Every so often, one would glance toward the travelers and smile in a way that didn't quite reach their eyes. The innkeeper served another round of that rich stew. Daniel noticed that Megan hesitated before eating this time. "Meat's different tonight," she whispered. Luis rolled his eyes. "Still good." Later, as they headed upstairs, Daniel caught sight of something in the kitchen. A butcher's table stained dark. On it lay a shape covered in burlap. The outline was wrong. Too long in the arms, too narrow in the chest. He didn't say anything to the others. Part 6. The cellar sleep wouldn't come. Daniel slipped out of bed and crept down the hallway. The inn was silent except for the faint creak of floorboards settling. He found the cellar door behind the kitchen. It was locked, but the key hung on a nail. The smell hit him first, metallic, like blood. He descended the steps slowly. Lantern light revealed hooks hanging from the rafters. Some were empty, others weren't. Limbs wrapped in paper, ribs stripped clean. Skulls and crates, their eye sockets dark and hollow. Daniel stumbled back, hand over his mouth. A voice came from behind him. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing here." It was the old man who had greeted them yesterday. His expression was calm. "Now you've seen, you can't leave. You'll be part of the feast." Part 7. The hunger below. Daniel ran. The old man didn't chase, he didn't have to. The innkeeper stood at the top of the stairs, blocking the way. Behind her, 2 villagers emerged from the shadows, holding ropes. Somewhere upstairs, Megan screamed. They were herded out into the cold night. The entire village gathered in the square. Lanterns swayed in the wind, casting long, flickering shadows. A stone well stood at the center. Its cover had been removed, and from its depths came a smell so foul it made Daniel gag. The villagers began to chant, a low, rhythmic sound that seemed older than the buildings around them. One by one, the captives were led forward. Daniel saw Megan struggling against 2 men, saw Amy crying, saw Luis shouting curses. And then he saw what came out of the well. It was not fully human, gaunt, its skin stretched tight over its bones, its mouth impossibly wide, teeth jagged and yellow. The villagers didn't flinch. It took the first victim in a single lunge, dragging them below. Part 8. Down in the dark. Daniel's turn came. The ropes cut into his wrists. The creature's eyes, milky white and unblinking, locked onto him. His breath was hot and rancid. Then chaos erupted. Someone in the crowd shouted. A lantern was knocked over, flames licking at the wooden platform. In the confusion, Daniel broke free and ran, pulling Megan with him. They darted through alleys, past shuttered windows, into the forest. Branches tore at their clothes, roots grabbed at their feet. Behind them, the chanting rose again. Part 9. The road. They ran until their lungs burned. Finally, a narrow dirt road appeared. At its far end, Daniel saw headlights, an old truck rumbling toward them. They waved frantically. The truck slowed. An old woman sat behind the wheel. She rolled down the window. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. "The hollow always calls back what's hers." Daniel and Megan exchanged a look. "What does that mean?" Megan asked. The woman didn't answer. She just gestured for them to get in. Part 10. The ending. Hours later, they were in a different town, sitting in a diner. The waitress poured coffee, her eyes lingering on them for just a second too long. Daniel took a sip, trying to stop his hands from shaking. Megan picked at her food but didn't eat. When Daniel finally lifted his fork, he froze. The meat on his plate was dark, rich,
familiar.
From the kitchen came a voice, humming softly, the same tune he'd heard in the inn that first night. And when he looked around the diner, he realized every patron was staring at them, smiling. The hollow's hunger had followed them.